If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, and share so we can find others like yourself. BitcoinBasicsPodcast.com.
It is the first time you can directly buy technology. So when the internet came out, you couldn't buy a chunk of the internet. You had to invest in companies that were investing in the internet. When electricity came out, you couldn't buy electricity. You had to invest in people or companies that use electricity. With Bitcoin, you buy Bitcoin. It's that simple.
Welcome to the Bitcoin Basics Podcast with your host Ferris, that's me, and Gordon from CoinCompass.com, enabling you to safely buy and securely store your Bitcoins. All resources are in the show notes and description, including our full disclaimer. Visit BitcoinBasicsPodcast.com to subscribe and discover other free content.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 18 of the Bitcoin Basics Podcast. I am still in New Zealand. Autumn has kicked in. We've got a storm brewing overhead. The date today is April 13th. And Gordon, whereabouts in the world are you?
As you can see behind me, I'm still in lockdown at the beach, but apparently there's only 2 days left, so I'm not sure if they'll extend that or whether they'll let us all be free, get out of our cages. So before we begin, let's do the proof of recording. The current block height is 625,687, according to blockstream.info. And the current price of Bitcoin is $6,717, according to Bitstamp. And Ferris, you have we both have some exciting news.
Yeah, so due to popular demand, this show, Bitcoin Basics Podcast, is intended to be under 10 minutes and just going through the bare bones, the fundamentals of what Bitcoin is. We do have another show now, Bitcoin Prosperity Podcast.com, where we actually do go into a lot more detail. We've had a couple of interviews that will go for 2 hours where we look at Bitcoin and macro markets. So it's a lot more detail. So we look at price of gold, the S&P 500, Bitcoin, and how they all correlate to each other in these times. So Bitcoin Basics Podcast, just to understand the basics of Bitcoin. If you are an investor and you really want to get into the weeds of what else is going on in the world, BitcoinProsperityPodcast.com.
Okay. Awesome. So finally, you've got an outlet for all your charts and graphs and price.
I do. A lot of fun.
So speaking of such, how about we play today's question?
What's the best way of staying on top of the ins and outs of Bitcoin, especially with the market being so volatile right now?
All right. Awesome question. As usual, remember coincompass.com/ask. Keep them coming. We've still got another 12 or 11 days left after this. So, Ferris, have a first go at that.
So the way I'm interpreting this question is because the price of Bitcoin can be very volatile. I think the presumption behind this question is that news leads to the price. So for example, if you own a stock in, say, Apple, and they announce their earnings and say they earned more money than expected, then the price of Apple goes up. If their earnings went down, then the price will follow. So I think this is where that question is heading is there's a presumption that the price of Bitcoin is following what is happening in Bitcoin. So if you stay on top of what's happening in Bitcoin, it should explain the price. That's actually not how Bitcoin works. It's actually not how most markets work, I would argue. But with Bitcoin, the price is not reflected in fundamentals. 2016, early 2017, Bitcoin, there's a lot of internal concerns around Bitcoin because it was going to go into its first hard fork split, where basically a new Bitcoin was going to be created. And a lot of people inside the Bitcoin echo chamber were really worried. But the price just kept going up. So it's kind of like people buying Bitcoin had no idea what was going on. So today in this current economic climate where we've got, currencies, equities falling, bonds going up, you expect Bitcoin to go up, but Bitcoin's going down. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, it's how do you stay on top of news to know what's happening in the price? Bitcoin definitely doesn't work that way. It's the price is a beast unto itself. What's your take on it, Gordon?
Well, before I answer that, why doesn't Bitcoin have earnings? Isn't it like everything else?
No, of course not. So earnings basically means you have shareholders, you're accountable to shareholders, you're selling products, you're selling services, you've got overheads. Bitcoin doesn't work that way. The best way I've heard Bitcoin described is it is the first time you can directly buy technology. So when the internet came out, you couldn't buy a chunk of the internet. You had to invest in companies that were investing in the internet. When electricity came out, you couldn't buy electricity. You had to invest in people or companies that use electricity. With Bitcoin, you buy Bitcoin. It's that simple.
That's an excellent point, Faris, because you're literally able to buy shares or equity in the internet, just like you can with Bitcoin. So,
do you want to learn how to safely buy and securely store your Bitcoins? CoinCompass.com is running a free 2-hour webinar on Sunday, 31st of May. To register and for more details, visit CoinCompass.com/webinar.
Take on it is if you want to stay on top of the news, go to bitcoinbasicspodcast.com, sign up for our free newsletter. And if you want price analysis, bitcoinprosperity.com with Bitcoin and markets and other awesome technical analysis with Faris.
Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, so obviously I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek there, but I mean, there are plenty of places to stay up to date. The problem with Bitcoin is there's so much noise out there. You go on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and there's pump and dumps. There's people telling you to buy, to sell, or whatnot. So yeah, it is quite tough to get some really good sources of information, but perhaps, Faris, you could list, say, your top 3 sources, and I'll list my top 3 in the show notes in the description of this video. But in all seriousness, if you do sign up to our newsletter, and we do have some other free content, but if you're sort of just getting into it, have a listen to some podcasts. Obviously, our podcast, but there are plenty of other podcasts out there as well. So educate yourself, invest in your own education, and unlike Bitcoin, your education is not volatile. So that's what I suggest.
Yeah, well, my top sources, I mean, if I do want to know what's happening in the world of Bitcoin, I go to Twitter. Anyone should follow our Twitter feed at CoinCompassBTC. And you'll just see who I follow, and feel free to follow them as well. Someone I highly recommend if you're just getting into Bitcoin is Tuur Demeester. That's TUURDEMESTER, Tuur Demeester. Excellent source for newbies to understand what's going on. Yeah, just go to our Twitter feed and see who we're following us and see who we're following. And that's, to me, Twitter is the best place to stay on top of the world of Bitcoin. FinTwit is a subculture in Twitter, and FinTwit, financial Twitter.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I will say, though, as a beginner, it is pretty overwhelming if you jump head deep in the deep end of crypto Twitter. But yeah, those people, definitely follow them on Twitter if you're into Twitter. If you're not, again, podcasts, YouTube, there's all kinds of stuff. And there's websites as well that give you news, Cointelegraph, CoinDesk, all those kind of, I mean, you can just search for that. I'm not going to give you a preference because everyone has different opinions. But yeah, just see what you like, see what you don't like, and dive right in. Educate yourself. Educate before you invest. Okay, excellent resources, Faris. And it can be overwhelming for beginners. But yeah, just dive into Twitter, YouTube, podcasts. There are plenty of newsletters out there apart from ours. And yeah, educate yourself before you sort of dump your entire life savings into it. So obviously we don't suggest that. So and feel free to send us an email if you, yeah. If you're ever struggling, yeah, we can answer questions or head across to coincompass.com/ask. So I think that's it, Faris. If you want to keep up to date, you can definitely subscribe, bitcoinbasicspodcast.com, and check out the show notes. We'll put a few links to our favorite resources in there. So that concludes day 18. Keep your questions coming, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching or listening. Please visit coincompass.com/free to register to our socials and discover other free content. Subscribing, liking, and following helps this content remain ad-free. Until next time.